And now we are live on the other channels.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Thriving Females today. We are so excited. I am Sarah.
Hey, I'm Tara.
And I'm Cathlene.
Yes, our amazing guest, Cathlene. I am so excited to have her here. Gosh, we have so much to talk about today. She is a best-selling author. She is a founder of a global nonprofit that I can't wait to talk about. She is a fitness guru. I know that because I've done my research, and I love that because me and Tara are big fitness people. So, what a lot of people always ask me, how do you find all these people? Cathlene and I actually connected because Trina Kors had asked to put your nonprofit, Hopefull Handbags, in my gym at the time. And that was kind of how we got that connection. So we have so much to talk about with you. You are literally a thriving female. And let's start with that portion. You have a nonprofit that is global. So tell us everything about it.
Okay, so I will give you it kind of in a nutshell. Hopefull Handbags Global. What we do is we raise hope, help, and support to survivors of domestic abuse and their children. And let me just tell you really quickly why I started this. So my mom grew up in a very abusive home. My mom was one of 11 children, and she was kind of smack dab in the middle as far as age goes. And my mom had me when she was 15. My dad was 17. They're still together. They're the most amazing people. But we lived across the street from my grandparents. And as I grew up, I realized why. But my mom has siblings that are mine and my sister's age. Can you guys hear me okay? My mom has siblings that are mine and my sister's age. So the younger siblings would come run across the street, you know, Debbie, you've got to come over. And these are just things that I saw. I knew that what was going on across the street wasn't normal because I didn't grow up that way. And I wasn't growing up that way across the street. It's just something that stuck with me. And I always wondered why my grandmother stayed. I never understood that, even at a young age. Now, this was in South Florida. We moved away once I started, got into elementary school. But the abuse kept and still kept happening, and my mom trying to do whatever that she could. So I raised my kids. I have 4 children ranging from the ages of 30 to 16, and I have 3 grandkids, but it always stuck with me. Why do people stay in these situations? And so I went and got certified in 2016 to be a domestic abuse advocate. And then I realized very quickly that there is no one reason. Now, one thing that I remember is it just stands out in my mind that my grandmother loved handbags. So like every time something would happen, maybe we would just go out for the day, and JCPenney's was the like go-to place. And my mom, oh my gosh, I have such great memories of JCPenney, you guys. I think all of my childhood clothes.
I think we all do.
Right? I was kind of bummed out when it started closing down. So then so my grandmother would pick out a handbag, and because she couldn't afford to get one. So I started hearing about people filling handbags with sanitary products and handing them out to the homeless in different locations. And I thought, you know what, why don't we do this and start donating them to domestic abuse survivors to raise hope? Because I'm all about raising hope, reminding everybody that they're limitless. You know, what we have inside, we have it, we can do this. So that's how it started, right? I kind of threw it out there, and before we were even registered, I had people dropping off handbags and necessities. So since then, we have grown globally, and how that works is, even though we are here in the U.S., we have somebody that takes it over in their country. And they are under Handbags Global. But what we do is we have a president, we have a board, and we let them decide after the handbags, what's the biggest need in their community that survivors of domestic abuse would need, or their children. So the handbags open the conversation, but from there, we help survivors and their children with all kinds of things. every situation is unique. So every need is unique. And so we take it on a case-by-case basis. And if we have the means to do it, and it's something that's going to lead to sustainability, because that's a really big deal for us and our organization, is sustainability, then we will by all means make it happen. So yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell. There's a whole lot more, though, I have to say.
So I have a question. So I apologize. The dog heard something right away. She was sound asleep.
That's okay.
This isn't normal life. So how did you get because now you're globally, how did you go about getting your global connections? Did other people find the need where they lived? I mean, obviously domestic abuse is everywhere. So how did you how did you get those connections all over?
Okay. So the first connection that I made was just from somebody reaching out. And then we're like, okay, I'm in this domestic abuse situation. I've been out of this domestic abuse situation. I really see that this is helping people. I want to do this in my country. And then I have a very good friend of mine who is the CEO and founder of Moms in Business International. And it is a Facebook group of over 70,000 women. And so I go in there a lot, talk about domestic abuse and how, lifting people up, and then having people reach out. So then once that started growing, it started coming organically as well. So you're right. Domestic abuse is everywhere. It doesn't matter how much money you do or do not have. It happens at every socioeconomic level. And even though they are maybe a breadwinner in the family and they're being abused, it's still sometimes they can't leave. They can't leave, right? They're afraid for their lives. So many different things go into that. But that's how we started spreading globally. And from there, that's exactly what we do. So for instance, in Africa, we are in South Africa and in Kenya. And we've got projects going on over there. So their needs over there are different, right? And we're also, again, working on sustainability. So we have partnered with another organization in starting our sewing project. And what that is reusable pads. So they make reusable pads. We've provided them with everything that they need. They make these reusable pads, which I'm pretty excited for coming out in our branding color soon. But these are reusable pads because most of the villages in Kenya, they still don't have sanitary products. And so the girls are tying and things like that. So what this is allowing is the ability of the survivor too. So the people that are making the pads are getting paid for making the pads. Also, oh my gosh, self-confidence is out of the roof because these same women are going into the communities and they're talking to the schools about the pads. So now they're out there becoming speakers of something that they're passionate about while they're making money and be able to sustain their family. That's just an example of something that's different than the traditional in the US, in the UK, in Northern Ireland. We can hand out these amazing bags with all of the necessities, and we have little notes we put inside each one. And then what happens from there is they contact us and they say things like, this has really helped. This is where I am now. This is another thing I love. We tag the bags. So we tag each bag with a tag that's similar to this with contact information. And what we have found is that survivors will take that tag and they give it to other people that might need help. Now, we end up getting a lot of phone calls from people before they call the shelter and before they call the police station. And that's because we're not the shelter and we're not the police station. So it's just kind of, it's a safe first. They don't feel like they need a commitment yet.
So I find that interesting about some people watching today probably don't realize that people in Africa like the pads. That doesn't seem like that it would be an issue, but it is an issue. And that can change people's, self-esteem right there, not being uncomfortable or anything. So
you must have this network of a board of all your different projects based off of the needs of the different countries and communities, and managing all of that has got to be a fascinating project in and of itself.
So Cathlene, the purses, when you collect the purses, where are you getting your donations for inside of them? like putting
also from the communities. We're getting them
Okay.
from the communities. Sometimes a business will come forward and donate, and sometimes with funds that are donated, we go and we make up for anything we don't have enough of to go into the bag. Now, everything that is donated in each community, unless it's otherwise noted or earmarked, is donated back within the communities that it's donated in. So that is really huge, because when people donate their handbags and their necessities, they're donating back to their community. And let me just give you an example. In Northeast Florida, since that's where our headquarters is, that's where I am, I can very much tell you. So we're donating out to Duval, St. John's, Putnam, Flagler, yes, and Clay. And we will donate between 50 and 70 handbags per month to survivors. Now that is just the people that we know about. Those aren't the ones still in domestic abuse situations. And this is monthly. So this is an ongoing process. Now, so I'm telling you about this area because
can I stop you right there? Can I stop you? Yeah. I just got to go back to that 50. That's a lot to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, stop. This is a lot. So is that 50 people that are going to shelters and seeking help?
That is either shelters or those that are connecting with us personally, like us, our organization. So yes.
They're finding you some way.
That number is shocking, actually, for this small of area.
Well, I will tell you that we have shelters in each one of the counties, and they're always full. Almost all of the shelters in the United States are pretty close to capacity all the time. So that is why, for instance, we have a fundraiser going on continuously we're calling it Carolyn's Haven of Hope. Now, Carolyn was my grandmother's name. And I might have not mentioned, I don't know if I got that far, that my grandmother passed away over 30 years ago from a brain injury. And I really feel like you can only get hit so many times, right? So this is something that's really close to my heart. But how this goes with what you're talking about is shelters are temporary, and so is staying with family and friends. 85% of survivors of domestic abuse go back to their abuser because they don't have anywhere to go. Mm-hmm. That's just the reality of the situation, and that's a global issue. So we know we can't help everybody right away, but we're working on it in this area, since this is where I am physically, to get Carolyn's Haven of Hope, which will be a home that 4 bedrooms, 5 bedrooms, however many we can get, with a live-in. And the survivors, if they qualify meaning that it's a contract between us both, right? You have to have a job. You've got to have some upkeep, things like that, because they need more time to heal. So you've got a year in this program that gets you back on your feet. Also working with financial advisors and people that will make sure that after that year, you are in a place where you can rent a place of your own. Because, we know what it's like these days to rent someplace. Right? It's like buying a house. I mean, it's so hard to find a place to rent. It's even qualify to rent. So yes, the shelters are almost always full. We're trying to work on something to save that and change that. Here in this state of Florida, we're consistently writing Tallahassee, the governor, his wife, and trying to get some things tweaked as far as the laws go. That's a whole other conversation, but there's certain funding that you can only get if you abide by certain guidelines, which I think have been outdated now for about 50, 60 years that need to be.
So do you have a team that's doing any grant writing for you so that it's
we did, and we do not right now. So we are actively looking for somebody that can help us with that. That's a whole, it's a whole other ballgame. And I personally I've done some myself. I mean, I can get to some of them, but they're very time consuming. Yes. And you can do what you can do. So yes, the shelters are always full. Now, one thing you might notice on all of our paperwork and our brochures and everything is we took the word violence off and we changed everything to abuse. And we did that because it's not just physical. Typically, when people think of domestic violence, they think, oh, it's hitting, it's punching, it's strangling. I mean, all these things, which we don't have to go into right now, but it's not always that. We have sexual abuse, financial abuse, we have stalking, we have isolation, psychological. Oh my gosh, that is the one of the biggest, is psychological.
Yeah.
Whereas then the survivor ends up totally relying on that abuser and what they're saying. And of course, you see this all the time, right? People start to go away. They don't want to be around those people anymore. And that's exactly what the abuser wants. So we try to make sure that we educate people on the fact that it's not just physical abuse.
So do you have a lot? So when they cut, are you working with a lot of females out there that have been through it, got over that hump, and are doing good and, thriving in their own lives, that are coming back and volunteering and helping?
Oh, yes. Women? Yes, we absolutely do. And even when we fill our handbags, this is globally, and until they do it, they don't realize. So we'll have volunteers that come together. We'll have the whole day filling handbags, and all the stuff is out, and then conversations start. And some people start opening up for the first time. I mean, the first time that my husband happened to help bring stuff into one of our volunteer events, and he said afterwards, this was like a counseling session, because people start to open up, and there are some things that people that have never opened up before. So yes, they do come back and they volunteer. And then we have some that either they've known somebody, or some that don't know anything about domestic abuse, or they don't realize they're in an abusive situation. That has happened many, many times, until we just kind of casually start talking about it as we're filling handbags. And they're like, oh my gosh, like, that's what happens to me. Like, that's where I am. So
the light bulb goes on.
But that's so true. Is that some people don't think they're, because if it's not physical, but I know people that have been like that, their partners, the way they speak to them is abuse.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, you have verbal abuse going on. That's nobody should have to be spoken to like that. It's like you said, it's not always physical, and that can almost ruin you more, having verbal abuse all the time.
And so many survivors have said that it's the emotional, verbal, psychological abuse that is the hardest to heal from.
So when they get their bags, there's a thing, there is the papers in there, and that immediately hooks them up to people that they can talk to right away and call.
So what they can do is they can reach out to us. And then what we do is we find out where are you, not only in a physical location, where are you safe? And where are your needs? Like, where are you right now in your head? Like, and we have that conversation. It's myself, and I have 2 other volunteers that help with that. The phone number for Hopefull Handbags globally comes to my phone to make sure that we're getting people to the right place. At this point, we're not a 24/7 hotline, but we will make sure we get right back to people. And I say that because time zones, have to sleep, there's things that have to get done. But so we will connect them with whatever is needed. Now, something that people don't realize a lot is that you do not have to stay in the shelter in your area in order to access these services. So if you are a domestic abuse survivor, or your children too. So big part of this for me, more adults can get to safety, the fewer children that have to grow up in abuse. I mean, we've got, they can't do anything about this, but we can help those adults get out and see. So many survivors too. I hear this so often. Well, I'm staying for the kids because the kids need both parents. And we talk about that because see what the kids are learning, what they're thinking is normal. I mean, we hope they come out on the other side okay.
Yeah.
They don't, meaning they either end up in a situation that's abusive, or they end up being an abuser in some way. And it's not their fault, right? We're doing what we learn. You don't know what you don't know. So if we can get that out, teen and dating abuse in colleges is a huge issue. I work with a lot, typically girls. This happens to men and boys as well. Just want to throw that out there. We will help anybody. Statistically, it's women. Happens a lot in colleges. It's happening not only within their peer group, but I'm finding that it's happening in places where there are colleges, and you have the older person that is going for the younger people, and then they've got already that kind of authority figure, and they get wrapped up in this abusive situation, and they don't know how to get out, because now most of them are away from home for the first time, and then they've got this savior coming in that's paying for everything, giving them a place to live, going, and then they end up stuck. And unfortunately, I see this way too often. We've luckily been able to get a lot of college-age students out of those situations, but it's not a right thing. They don't know what to do to leave. They have to sustain themselves now. I tell my parents.
It's funny that you brought that up, because they're paying for everything. Most abusers are manipulative like that. They'll, they'll make everything better real quick, be back to normal.
Absolutely.
So, how long has Hopefull Handbags been going now?
2017.
Okay, so what have you, since you've started it, what are your successes the most? I mean, what do you see the most happening? Do you have a lot of successes, or?
We do have a whole lot of successes. Let me see if I can remember the numbers here. Well, we have donated over 12,000 handbags that are full. That's amazing. We have helped over 50 survivors and their children in emergency situations, which means getting them to safety right away. For us, we call that pop-up shelters, because like I said, a lot of the shelters are full. And so we've got to get them to safety. So pop-up shelters are hotel rooms, safe hotel rooms. And depending on where they are, we've got to work that out and make sure we get them to someplace that's safe until they can get to the next step. We provide computers. So we've provided 25 computers, I think, to date, to survivors and their kids. It's a whole nother thing, right? Things that we don't think about. When they leave, most of them are leaving with nothing. And so you've got a whole bunch of people out there who don't have access to the internet or a laptop. Kids can't do their homework. We also have given our self-perception workshops. Now, our self-perception workshops, that's what you think and feel about yourself, right? It's the base of everything in your life. I always like to say it dictates the chances you take, the choices you make, the relationships you stay in, and the ones that you leave, because you know you are worth more. Now, we started that in 2017. Since then, we have able to see, since we've got time behind us, that those survivors who have gone through the workshops have not repeated this cycle, if you will. Because what they're doing, and they'll even come back and say, oh my gosh, I started talking to this person, this, and I knew, this is the sign. I'm out. But as far as successes go, yes. So we have taught over 1,000 students globally. And we've done this, we have Zoom, we have some amazing people in our other countries that are also facilitating these workshops with students. And so then they can start to think right away, questions that they've never asked themselves or people haven't asked them. Like, you know what do you really think about yourself? Not what you really want other people to hear about yourself, but like, what do you really think about yourself? We talk a whole lot about, who do you hang out with? And this is as adults too. I mean, look at your surroundings. You know what? If you're hanging out with people that's you want to go in, or they're always negative, I call it weeding out. We talk about weeding out. We're going to weed out these people.
Yeah.
And that includes obviously abusers, people that are putting you down. We have a lot of successes. We've logged over 11,000 volunteer hours, and it just keeps on coming in. It just keeps on coming in.
So what are other ways that people can help get involved with some of those programs? I know you talked about survivors coming back and volunteering, but what about other people? What can they do to help support you or become involved?
Yeah. Okay. So there's so many ways. So with our handbags, obviously it's once loved handbags and necessities. We've got, that's always needed, and that's needed if you're in a community and you're watching this that does not have Hopefull Handbags and you want to start it, super simple. You can get that started. Another thing is getting businesses involved with drop-off locations. The reason why that is so important is because when you get it out there in the community and somebody comes in and like, oh, Hopefull Handbags, what's that? And then they start reading about domestic abuse and they start, this is what they're like. I didn't know that in my area. Yeah. And so then also those same types of people will reach out because they may need help. So it's really important to get businesses involved. We also obviously always need monetary donations, and that is because in order for us to help survivors, we have to have the funds to do it. Like I said,
a hotel room,
shelters, rent, fixing cars. I mean, like I tell you, the needs. That's why you say, what are your successes? There are so many and they're so different.
Yeah.
I mean, car seats. I mean, they're called all kinds of things, and anything that leads to sustainability long term, or to get them to that next step. Like I said, if we have the means to do it, we certainly will do it. So we really need to find more individual donors, more businesses, more sponsorships, things like that. But I know that that's what nonprofits are. I mean, that's what we have to do, is be able to reach out and see how we can get those funds. But even some of our services. We do have our own domestic abuse advocate training. We have had all of our board members go through it. Most of our volunteers have gone through it. And we do have them do that because when we go out to what we call awareness events. Now, I would call an awareness event something like if Hopefull Handbags is going to go to a market, or if they're invited to like the bridal expos or something, right? That's an awareness event. Basically, we hand out our brochures. We take once loved handbag donations and necessities, which again opens up the conversation. And then you never know who's going to come talk to you. So our volunteers need to know, like, okay, what do you say? So we do have them go through our own advocate training, which is very, very helpful. So many times at these awareness events, you can see it. You become really attuned to when somebody's walking by, especially a couple, and they see that something has to do with domestic abuse, and one of them's like, let's keep moving type stuff. And so what we do there, it's non-invasive. Right? You just say, hey, listen, if you ever have one you want to donate, then please reach out because we could really use these necessities. That is how we get people to call us and say, there was a reason why I was at such event, and I need to do it. So, yeah. That's how we
I'm hoping that Thriving Females, we can start doing some advertising on here. Like today, Claire and we go to a gym, and I collected at my gym at one time. We can collect there, but hopefully, because I know we have a lot of people all over watching us, that we can figure out ways that they can donate. I'm shocked of the small area of the amount of women, which is sad to me, and that's only the ones so hopefully we can figure out ways.
We do have one of our Instagram viewers just said that their old stylist had something at their salon, a drop-off bin, and so it's just something as simple as we all go get, hopefully, regular haircuts, or we have those errands that we run pretty regularly, that if we see it on the side, I always remember walking into the gym and seeing that basket that was right there when you walked in.
So that is my goal with you, Cathlene, is to hopefully on Thriving Females, we can start plugging and helping and assisting the Hopefull Handbags. I do think it is an amazing cause. And now when you just throw numbers at me, I'm like, oh, well, this is really needed. We need to get on it too. So we'll try to do that. But I want to keep talking about you. You're doing so many other good things. We're going to, like I said, we're going to keep trying to plug this Hopefull Handbags, but you've also written 2 books, Cathlene. Tell us how that happened. Mm-hmm. There you are, your 2 books.
Okay, so when I was younger, how many of us sometimes don't feel that great about ourselves? I was one of them. And in high school, I had an eating disorder. And so I was back in the day before cell phones. We were looking at the magazines. I was watching like pageants, and I just wanted to be like that. And another thing I always noticed was I felt like in high school, all the girls that were happy, were skinny. I really did. I felt like they were. And that was like a whole perception of mine, right? Perception, meaning like why we call it.
I don't think you're alone in that perception or that experience.
What'd you say?
I said, I don't think you're alone in having that
No.
perception or that experience.
Not at all. Oh my gosh. But I just felt so, I just did not feel good about myself. And now I was raised with good parents too. So it doesn't matter, what your people are telling you. This is what we perceive in our own heads. So that kind of started my whole self-perception journey. And then I got pregnant at a very young age. I got married at a very young age. And I don't know if you guys know what hyperemesis is, but I had hyperemesis with all 4 of my pregnancies. So that basically means you get sick the whole time. That's what that is. And so I was on IVs for my first pregnancy, about 7 months. And that was in the hospital. Now, I had a lot of time to think and reflect back. And I just kept thinking, gosh, and I will tell you. Okay, so like I said, I had an eating disorder. They were sending psychiatrists in, everybody else. Why do you keep making yourself get sick? I was like, oh my gosh. Like I had already been to counseling. I'd already healed, right, from the eating disorder, but it was a constant. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to get these people to realize I am not making myself sick. Anyway, ended up being hyperemesis, had it with all 4 pregnancies. So it is what it is. But I started thinking about myself and other people and thinking, you know what, Kath, what you're doing is not working. You got to start working on how you feel about yourself. Like you did when you were younger. I used to think like I was invincible, oh my gosh, I'm strong. I mean, the way my body is built, I'm not that tall. I can get muscle fast, right? But I'm not, my body type's never going to be a skinny. You won't get on body types, but that's just not my body type. It's not what it is. So I started really paying attention to everything that I thought about myself, everything I said to myself. And that's what started my journey of healthy self-perception. And I really had to work at it. Now, I had 2 children at a very young age. I was divorced. I was a single mom of 2, doing the thing you always I mean, I feel like I hear it a lot, but working a full-time job, 2 part-time jobs, trying to make ends meet. And when I started to kind of really drop a little bit on what I was really thinking about myself, because you get kind of in the rut, I was like, oh, here it goes again. Things aren't going well. And so I know that everything I put out there, like I always say, what are you expecting, right? Whatever I'm expecting is probably going to come my way. So I started being really careful about that kind of stuff. So how I started implementing myself method that I did on myself was one of my second jobs or third jobs was I became a personal trainer. So I became a personal trainer for women. I was a supervisor at Mayo Clinic for about 10 years. Started when I was 19, worked my way up, but I needed to still help make it. So I wanted to work out at the gym, but I did not have the money to have a job. So I was like, and I wanted to be healthy because I already knew what my past was like. I needed this. It's like, I'm not going back down there. Like, I need to. So I became a personal trainer. I started training women, only women, because that's what I know. And as I was working on myself, I started to train the women to come up with the plans. I was like, hey, listen, I can help you on the outside, but if you don't feel this on the inside, none of this is going to matter. I'm telling you now, it's not going to matter. So the women that decided to go through the self-perception methods with me as I can look back now, I can do it off and on now. Quite honestly, the amount of time that I spent when I was 20, I just can't believe it. I mean, but they right? They know the right things to do because they know that it has to start inside. Now, I had some women that say to me, you know what, I'm good. I'm fine. I feel good. But I will tell you that they didn't stick with what they were doing either. And they got down even front. So when I started, I kind of put all this stuff together. I mean, I got track what was working, what wasn't working, and that's when I put the 30-day self-perception makeover. And I did that, and then I'll tell you about the book too. So I did it in little increments. So when I read, I like to read short. So
that's me.
So each is a page and a half. So it also incorporates journaling. It only takes about 10 minutes a day. And I everyone has done it and has literally changed their life. Because it's not rocket science here, but it's things that we do not stop enough to ask ourselves these questions and to truly answer. So as I started going on with this, I knew that I started my stuff started. It just did. I know it did. I know I got 2 girls, 2 boys, and I know from being through my daughter, my older daughter, who is going to be 28 soon, she had an eating disorder too. So of course that was another push for me to say, okay. And even she has said, Mom, I wish I would have had something like this because I didn't. And the thing is interesting is that from having kids that are so spread, not that I'm a different mom, but I've grown myself. So what I taught my older kids, the way I was living, even though it was positive, right? I was really trying to work on my self-perception. I wasn't where I am now. And so my younger kids got a different kind of version.
It's different approaches.
So she even said, my older one, yeah.
I do think, Cathlene, don't you? I mean, I think that we were saying over the years, I think as we get older too, we start to, I don't know, I think we learn to work on ourselves more. I think at least I have back in our 20s, or 30s, I feel like our 20s, you're never like, I need to work on myself. It's like, that's not our first thought. We're young, and you don't think like that. You don't think, I don't think my mental state's good right now, or, we're always worried about it.
I think when we're younger. Oh, I think what were you going to say? You're worried what?
And I think that we're always worried about, like you said, am I skinny enough? Do I look good enough? Am I making enough money? Oh, am I going to get to do this? We worry about the wrong things.
Absolutely. And in saying, going off of what you just said, I was going to say, we really worry about what other people think. And so as we get older and wiser, as I call it, we realize that it doesn't matter what anybody thinks. Really, it doesn't. It doesn't. It really matters what we think, because that's what we're radiating out. And if those people don't want to be around that, or they get uncomfortable, which happens, I even talk about that in both of the books, is that when you start to really getting a healthy self-perception, there will be people that will start to veer away from you. They just will naturally. They won't really understand why. Something just doesn't feel right. They know that you're changing. They feel those energies, and that's okay. It's doing you a favor. Don't go chasing those people. But as we get older and wiser, we realize that it doesn't matter what other people think. Now, will I ask somebody's opinion sometimes if I value it? Yes, but I will tell you, like my husband always says, you're still going to do what you want in the end. Yeah, because I might take some of that. But the thing is so I truly will make decisions based on what I really feel, what I really feel inside. And as we get older and wiser, we do that. Now, as far as the teen book goes, so I'm not a teen. I was not a teen when I wrote this book. So it's her picture on the cover. Her name is Taylor Lavery, and she was a high school senior at the time that I wrote this book. And so what I did was we took the things from the 30-day self-perception makeover. We put it in today's form, how social media. I mean, oh my goodness, we could have a whole show on social media. Because I have some things that I've gone through with some of my kids even that is really a teaching moment for parents. And I was a speaker. I don't know if you guys saw the Brave Summit that Flagler Hospital put on, and it was at the amphitheater, and it was for teens. I was the parent speaker for that event, speaking to parents. And I really think that social media has, although it can be good, it can be very damaging to not only teens, young adults, younger kids. Oh my gosh, when I see these kids and I see them at 9 years old walking around with a cell phone, I just cringe because I know what happens. You know what I mean? And I am a diligent parent. I am seriously like that parent that all phones have to be plugged in downstairs at a certain time. I have to know your passwords. That is just me. It's always been that way. It wasn't going to change. And I still miss it. So maybe we can try to go and talk about that some more. But the self-perception stuff is really fun. And I think if we all realize that what we think we feel about ourselves seriously affects the minute I walk out that door, what my thoughts are, and what ends up happening. and how I react and relate to people.
I do think you brought up something, Cathlene. I don't even think it's just like teenagers. I feel like social media can, like, for this instance, we're trying to use it as a positive, but I do think from 9-year-olds to the 80-year-old, it is affecting social media people, how they, feel about themselves or their social circles, like in a negative way instead of a positive way, which is kind of sad to me.
Well,
like,
and
because like right now, this is a good platform to share, put spotlights on females out there and share experiences and things that are going on instead of, putting something negative out there, which it does a lot.
It does. And there's definitely a positive part to it. Not to change this whole conversation over to that, but I will say, just after the research that I've done, after things that I've gone through, what I did notice that's different is when we're going on to social media, typically as adults, we're going on to see what so-and-so did, what's coming up, what's this, our mindset's different, right? So when somebody younger is going on and they're looking for the outfit, or they're like, oh my God, that's so cute, that's what I want to look at. So they're going to get more of that in their feed. That's what they're going to get in their feed. So it's what's being fed to us behind the scenes is where I think that change is coming, right? From the thriving females actually empowering women and inspiring them and saying, oh my gosh, if they can do this, I can do this. Or maybe I should call and collaborate and things like that, versus the, oh my gosh, kind of like I was saying before, when I ended up with my eating disorder, right? Like I was looking at pictures of magazines at that point. Like, why can't I look like that? Like, why can't I? And that's as our teenage brain and young adult brain starts to hone in on, why can't I? Why can't I? We don't realize as young people that that's what's growing. And then that's what's going to show up on our feed. I always like to think about those feeds as our brains. Oh, there we go. That's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
This is the food you need. Well, and I think to bring it back to, looking at your own self-perception and building yourself, and not necessarily caring what the perceptions are of others. Like I care about how my daughter perceives me. And so if I'm working on myself and I'm taking those things into account, whether it is social media or other, body positivity or just, like self-care, I want to demonstrate that for her. Like it makes me think of one of our other guests, Lindsay, and how, she does things with her daughter and what she's trying to demonstrate for her daughter so that we can create more of these thriving females.
Right. Absolutely. And I think for them to realize, our kids to realize that if something doesn't feel right, that they've got to open their mouth and talk to a parent. And if they can't talk to their parents, because let's just be real, at certain ages, they might not want to, even though that their parents would be behind them 100%. Talk to somebody else, like the kids that are in college. I mean, go talk to a teacher, go talk to a counselor, go talk to anybody, right? When you're in school, go talk to an adult. Don't use your peers as people to be your confidence all the time, because that is where me personally in my life, with an instance that we had where it went downhill, because the friends were the ones that they were asking in being that, and this, it doesn't happen to all kids, but let's just be real, it does. But by being a good role model, that's the only place to start. That's where we can start. And let our kids know, whether they're our biological children or they're just kids that we're mentoring, that they have a safe platform to come with no judgment. And that's kind of where we do, like with our teens, with Hopefull Handbags and our young adults, we've implemented in programs in some of the colleges where we start collecting handbags and necessities. And collecting the handbags and necessities, just like when a business gets involved in communities, it opens the conversation. And then they're like, oh my gosh, I never thought abuse. I just thought they love me so much that they don't want me ever out of their sight. And they love to check my messages. They just want to protect me. And, and we're just, and then they realize, oh, that's not normal. So, and it all goes into our self-perception. So to kind of bring this together, self-perception workshops, which are always free to survive. When I go into the schools, what it is. Sometimes it's a free workshop as well. But if we ever have workshops that we charge for, then all of that money goes directly back into helping more survivors and their children. We also teach self-defense. That's another that we do that. We have a self-defense program through which is something I absolutely love because one of my favorite workouts to always teach. I was certified in kickboxing, and so that got my love of self-defense on, and I remember my instructor was at that time I was like, and she was in amazing shape. She was like 5 years older than me. And she always wore these camouflage pants, shorts. Like she played the part of me. But it was a love-hate relationship here. When I would go in there to train, like class would kick my butt. But afterwards, oh my gosh. So anyway, that's kind of where our self-defense came in. Also, our president of Hopefull Handbags actually has been in martial arts for over 30 years, and he is amazing. So we have all that too. So it all comes back down though to our self-perception and what we think and feel about ourselves. And anybody like you ladies inspiring the communities and the globe, that's what's so great about these kind of platforms. Somebody will see this today and either say, I need to call for some help, or, oh my gosh, I was so inspired. I'm going to keep watching this show because I need more of this. This is what I need in my life.
Well, and that's the thing, isn't it? We like taking something from every, some of our females, they're doing amazing things. Like you've got a lot going on. Some are just doing little things, but their little thing that they're doing is inspiring one or two people. I have gotten messages on the side saying, I so enjoyed hearing her perspective on that or how they did that. So it's like being able to put that spotlight on people and maybe, adding something to somebody else's life makes it all worthwhile. So I am laughing though. I got to go back in your kickboxing. And that was at my gym, and we don't have that now. And everybody misses that. And women, they just made me laugh all the time. When they were having a bad day or like they were PMSing or, really getting frustration out, women can hit the bag nonstop.
Yes.
I'd walk by and I'd be like, you okay today? Yeah, just let me work here, Sarah. And
I'm going to be a lot better after this class.
And it's funny. They get all that aggression out and then they're like, I'm good. That's what I needed.
It's a therapy session. It's a therapy session with also being able to get into the shape you want. And it's empowering. I mean, I love kickboxing because I felt like also it was a self-defense portion, right? So the way I was taught kickboxing was in self-defense, right? So let's get them in the chest, let's get their head, not to be too graphic, but it is what it is. I mean, these days we need to be powerful enough and not afraid enough to, if we've got to punch that bag, and hopefully it's not somebody, but if it is, you can do it.
Well, people would envision people on their bags all the time, and they're like, I just have to do it for a second. I'm like, okay, I'll walk away.
It's therapeutic. So anybody that's not done kickboxing, I'm telling you, you should check it out. I'm not talking like being in the ring and boxing against somebody, but
No, but I do think that is important when I think females, I try to, and I know you with your fitness background, I've always told people, and Tara's a good one, she likes to work out to relieve stress and anxiety and stuff. And you don't have to go to a kickbox or an actual class. I mean, I would try to tell people, take time alone, take a long walk, get your sweat going, get your heart rate going. It does change your perspective. It brings down the stress level, makes you sleep better. It's amazing what people are like, I don't like to work out. Then go walk, go take a bike ride, do something. When you do it by yourself and you get your heart rate going, it really does change your day a little bit.
So Cathlene,
it does, and I think
Oh, no, I was just going to say, we're coming up to where we're getting close to the end, but I did want to make sure that we plugged. You've got an event coming up at the end of the month, correct?
We do. So we have our Women's Expo coming up on July 4th from 11 to 2. It's going to be in amazing St. Augustine, where our global headquarters is. And you'll probably start seeing these signs actually going up around town today. It is not only vendors, so we've got exhibitors there, but I'm super excited about our speaker event. So we have amazing speakers from 11 to 2 coming in that I have handpicked that have inspired me in some way. We have 3 that will be streaming in from other countries, and then we have some that will be there live. And it's going to be also at the Car Museum, but in the main place. So this event is being taken place at the Classic Car Museum of St. Augustine. It's an amazing venue. My dad, is a car guy. He drag races. I drag race some. Cars are just I love cars. So this is another reason for this, not to mention that the owners of that facility, Brenda and Cindy, are top notch. And the Classic Car Museum is a nonprofit. So any money that comes in gets put right back out to help other people. But in saying that, we also have available for those of you that are not in St. Johns County, or in the surrounding areas, for a $7 donation, you can buy a speaker event ticket, and that will be sent to you. So you can watch the speakers on your own time. To get into the event, it is only a $7 donation, or you can bring a once loved handbag, you can bring a bottle of shampoo, anything to fill our handbags, and you get in. The Car Museum, to get in, is a separate fee. 11 and under is free. We have raffles every 30 minutes. We have food truck, Facebook, and family friendly. So I'm really excited about this. Our last Women's Expo was a huge success, and so we want to make sure we do this again. Our goal is to make this more global, local, meaning as travel gets easier for people, having all of our global presidents and things like that come and have them also take part in this event. But you will not be disappointed by the event or the speaker event, I promise you.
That is very exciting. What day is that in the St. Johns County?
Yep, it is in St. Johns County. It's on US 1 South.
And what day is it? The end of the month?
Yes, July 24th. July 24th from 11 to 2. It's on a Sunday, which is great. And we want to make sure that the kids can come. And it's inside. Those of you who think it's hot. So
yeah, that's good. Well, Cathlene, I'm going to hopefully do some more collaborating with you with your Hopefull Handbags.
Yes.
When we post our video, we are going to have your website and links to Hopefull Handbags, CathleneMiner.com too, so you guys can check out the books. The books
Awesome.
are absolutely amazing. Can you actually buy those books on Amazon?
Yeah, you can buy them on Amazon as well.
Okay,
yes.
awesome. And
or the website. Yeah, or the website.
Okay. Oh, perfect. But hopefully we'll be seeing more of you. I have thoroughly enjoyed all the amazing things you are doing. I can't put enough spotlights on you right now because you've done some really good things. You've inspired me. Again, I'm still traumatized by the number and I feel like I need to help a lot more. So we will get on board with that. Hopefully some of our listeners too out there have connected to you. And I can't thank you enough for being with us today.
Well, I am honored to be here with you ladies. I mean, I was so excited and I am still as excited. So thank you so much for all that you do because it's really needed. We all need inspiration. And if anybody doesn't think they need inspiration, they do. So it can't hurt. So go watch more of what you guys are doing is what I would say. Make sure we're following the Thriving so that we can get updated and notified when there's somebody else that can inspire us.
And Cathlene, we'll tag you on your stuff, and that's okay for people to reach out to you.
Absolutely.
Anytime?
Absolutely.
Okay.
100%.
Wonderful.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you. Bye.